Babylon is a 3-hour long movie, and 1 hour, 21 seconds into the movie, the most random, unexplainable scene just happens. So in this video, I'm gonna try to explain it, why it's there, and what it means. But first, some context. Babylon was directed by Damien Chazelle, the youngest person ever to win the Best Director Oscar, and he did win Best Picture for La La Land for about 30 seconds. And after that, Paramount just gave him infinite money to make whatever movie he wanted, but first he had to do that biopic no one really talks about. Then in 2022, out came Babylon, the sweeping 3-hour-long Hollywood epic that lost millions of dollars and critics were pretty divided on, and was only nominated for 3 Oscars. But I am a Babylon defender. It's peak cinema, guys. When The Brutalist came out, everyone was like, oh, we don't get 3-hour-long character-driven epics anymore. And I'm like, Babylon is right there. We do get these kinds of movies. You just all hated it. But if you're watching this and you hate Babylon, don't click away, okay? Because I'm going to be negative about it. I'm talking about a shot in the movie that doesn't make any sense. Look, I'm being negative. Please stay on the video. I'm being negative. Babylon largely takes place between 1926 and 1932. It follows 3 characters. Manny Torres, who goes from lowly grunt to studio executive, Jack Conrad, who goes from being the top grossing actor to a washed up has-been, and Nellie Leroy, who goes from being an aspiring actor to superstar to gambling and drug addict. But in this video, I'm going to be focusing on Nellie because the scene in question is about her. And don't worry, I'm going to show that scene very soon, so just stay with me. Just focusing on Nellie, we start the movie with watching her crash this big Hollywood party, which Manny helps her get into, even though the two of them don't really know each other. Basically, there's an actress there who overdoses on drugs, and so, the studio execs need to find a new actress for this movie that's about to shoot, and they see Nellie dancing on a table and go, that's her, she's the replacement. So then Nellie shows up next day on set and absolutely amazes everybody with her acting abilities, specifically the way she can make herself cry and even control what eye the tears come out of and how many tears come out. She gets noticed by the studio CEO? It's unclear who this guy is because he's played by Jeff Garlin, who got canceled, and so they had to cut his part out of the movie as much as they could. So he randomly just shows up, they don't explain who he is, and then he just says the critical lines of dialogue he needs to that couldn't be edited out, and then he just disappears. I think it's kind of funny. And then we go to the premiere of Nellie's new movie that she just filmed. The audience loves it, and bam, we cut to a montage of Nellie growing in success and popularity. But something weird shows up in the montage, and see if you can find it. Did you see that? Right there. What is that? It's Nellie just sort of dancing. She's wet, looking directly into the camera. There are a number of things that make this odd. First off, she's standing in a location we've never seen before, and we will never see again for the rest of the movie. Second, she's wearing the dress that she wore at the beginning opening party. Third, she's breaking the fourth wall and looking directly into the camera, which again, that kind of thing doesn't happen in the rest of the movie. And the only other times people do look directly into the camera is like the sort of meta moment of like they're filming a movie within the movie, and so they look at the camera, which is the actual film camera they're on set for within the movie. But Nellie is not on a film set here. She's completely on her own and just breaking the fourth wall. And nothing like this shot or the scene ever happens again for the rest of the 2-hour runtime. So what does this mean? As I'm writing the script for this video, yes, this sentence right now, I have no idea. I'm just hoping if I keep writing, I'll figure something out. Okay. So first, let's just go scene by scene. Of course, this happens in the montage of Nellie rising to fame, which takes place right after The Wild Child, that's the name of the movie she was in, premiere. The audience starts clapping, everyone loves it, she's getting photos taken outside, and then we see her dad. He says he knew Nellie always had talent in her and that his name is Robert Roy. She added, the law. Which I think this detail is important. Then we go to a radio voiceover saying that Jack Conrad, which is Brad Pitt's character, has become the highest grossing actor in the world, and now he's set to marry his 5th wife. He doesn't have 5 wives, he's just been divorced 4 times, so this is his 5th. And then it cuts to a segment about a teenage girl in Kansas killing herself because of the news of Jack getting married. And I always thought this part was really odd for Damien Chazelle to add into the movie. Why are we talking about a girl committing suicide here? But then the radio guy also talks about some guy named Valentino dying, and revoke my film school degree. I did not know who that was because he's not a character in the movie, but doing some more research for this video, Rudolph Valentino was a very popular film actor in the 1920s, and he passed away in 1926 at the age of 31, and there are multiple recorded cases of women killing themselves after finding out Valentino died. They had wrote it in their notes, and they died surrounded by pictures of Valentino. And so this part in the movie is actually based on a real-life thing that happened. But this time, the girl in the movie is not only killing herself because of Valentino, but also because Jack Conrad is getting married again, and she dies surrounded by pictures of Brad Pitt. I mean Jack Conrad. Now, this has nothing to do with Nellie, but it does play into the theme of worshiping celebrities like gods, and can kind of be interpreted as a foreshadowing / sort of mirroring moment of when Jack takes his own life near the end of the movie. Anyway, back to Nellie. The radio announcer announces that Nellie is going to be in a new movie again with Constance Moore. Constance Moore is another actor that was in Wild Child with her, and now they're working together again. Constance Moore is played by the wonderful Samara Weaving, because everyone says, oh, Margot Robbie and Samara Weaving look exactly alike. Why aren't they in a movie together? They are. It's called Babylon. And I think this was a great casting choice because Constance Moore represents sort of the older, posh, sort of uptight Hollywood, and Nellie represents the new wave sort of coming in and breaking it all down. Then we go to the set of the movie where Constance is upset at Nellie, accusing her of icing her nipples, and she says she's stealing the scene right from under me. I'm the star, what's happening? And Nellie is changing the blocking of the scene to make sure that Nellie gets the close-ups instead of Constance, and Constance gets really mad about this and says, hey, I have the production company that's making this movie, I'm the star of the movie, I need to have the close-up. And the director is like, you know what, yeah, Constance is kind of right, she is funding this thing, let's do a close-up of Constance, which makes Nellie upset. So then we cut to that night in a phone booth. Nellie is on the phone, is like, hey, I want that surgery where we were talking about, let's do it tonight. Then she shows up next day on set with bandages all over her face. Presumably she got a nose job, and it's going to take a while to heal, which pauses production on the movie for so long that the movie actually goes under because Constance's production company ran out of money, and then the production company goes over, and now Nellie basically just put Constance out of business. So we see a newspaper headline that Constance Moore's production company goes under, and then in that same newspaper we see that Nellie is working on a new movie now, and so we go to that set of the movie where Nellie is like, oh, I'm ready for my close-up, and this time she actually gets the close-up instead of having to fight with Constance over it. Then we go over to Jean Smart's character, who is a movie critic named Eleanor. She's writing a review of Nellie. She says all those words that we will dissect in just a minute. Then we see the typewriter click, and then finally we make it it to this moment. Nellie is just sort of wet, walking around, looking directly into the camera. As she gets closer to the camera, we see flashes of the Wild Child movie that she was in, and it eventually ends with her getting really close to the camera, and then we see her nipple flash, which was in the Wild Child movie, and then it ends with Nellie on the cover of Photoplay magazine, and the montage is over, and the next scene starts. This whole montage is backed by the song Wild Child from the score, which is one of my favorite songs of the score. So the song starts right when Nellie gets applause for the movie Wild Child, and the song ends at this moment, her on the magazine. So as you can see, this moment is completely sort of disconnected from everything else that's been going on. Nellie is, got Constance Moore in financial trouble. Now she's the star. She gets the close-ups, all while she's just in this random location wearing the red dress she did earlier, breaking the fourth wall. Okay. And I think the key to understanding this is what Eleanor says about her in her review. So let's go over what she says. For common and uncouth though she may be, there's something about her that speaks to us in a language as vital and bracing as life itself. Never have I ever seen such a maelstrom of bad taste and sheer magic. Your humble servant bears witness. She has killed our grandmothers, and we thank her for it. Okay, so what does this mean? First of all, it's an overall positive review of Nellie, saying that she does have this sort of raw talent about her. Sure, she is, some random girl from Jersey. She, Eleanor calls her common and uncouth, which I had to look up the definition for, but it means like you don't have manners and you're just sort of a wild child, you could say. But she still has this talent that draws you in. You can't look away. She has killed our grandmothers, and we thank her for it is probably the most important line out of all of this, which ties back to Nellie replacing Connie, which Connie, I think, represents the grandmothers that Nellie is metaphorically killing, because Connie is like, this uptight, sort of a posh actress. And at this time within film history, you get sort of the experimental, sort of like borderline pornographic stuff that Nellie is doing with Wild Child, which, starts a whole new wave of kind of sexual revolution sort of thing. And it's not even about sex, it's just that Nellie is boisterous and loud and demanding and unashamed of what she wants, and the audience loves her for it. And as we'll see later on in the movie, when films become more of like a studio system that are shot within a sound stage and larger crews, we see that this kind of filmmaking and this kind of actor doesn't really fly anymore, and Nellie is sort of outcast at that point, which leads to the big sort of party scene. So what does Eleanor's review have to do with this shot? Well, I think, yes, the words itself are important, the way I just described, but also just the fact that Nellie is getting written about at all, because I think this ties to a later scene in the movie where Eleanor has written a piece about Jack, about how he's sort of washed up and a has-been, and then Jack comes to Eleanor's office to confront her, and Eleanor is like, hey, basically, we're all gonna die. You should be grateful because your films will live on forever. 100 years after we're gone, people will still be watching your movies. You have cemented yourself in history, my friend. And I think that's what Nellie is doing with Wild Child. I think the flashes we see of the Wild Child movie represent the movie cementing itself in history. Like, this is how Nellie will be remembered, always as the Wild Child, for better or for worse. And I think that's what this scene means. It's a physical representation of the performative, outlandish, sort of fake performer Nellie merging with the real, raw, vulnerable Nelly. When I say the fake Nelly, I'm talking about her celebrity persona, sort of the wild child, the one who will fight a snake just for the sake of it, or the one who will get a nose job to get Constance fired, or the one that has a gambling addiction. And when I say the real Nelly, I'm talking about the real, raw, vulnerable side of her that we barely get to see in this movie. As most of it, Nelly is giving a performance. She's masking, acting confident when really she's insecure. But we do get a sliver of those real moments of Nelly in the movie. I'd say in the opening scene at the party, this is the real, raw Nelly, because she's not famous yet. Sure, she's sort of faking this confidence to sort of get into the party, but at the same time, she's really insecure. She's nobody. She's trying to prove all the people from her hometown wrong, that she can be somebody. And I think that's why her and Manny bond sort of immediately, is because they are both outcasts and sort of lower status people in this situation. The time when she can cry on command, the director asks her, how do you do it? How are you able to cry on command? And Nelly just goes, I think of back home, which is a really ominous statement, but we do get to learn a bit more when she goes to New York to visit her mother in a mental hospital. And that is the real raw Nelly, where she's not performing for anyone. She doesn't have to pretend to be confident. It's just her looking at her mom and kind of being sad about the situation. But she can't let it go on for too long because she's uncomfortable sitting in those emotions, and she says, okay, let's go, and they leave. And then there's the end of the movie where she's sort of just having a full-on drug-infused mental breakdown, and it's really ambiguous on whether or not this is sort of Nelly playing it up, or this is real, raw Nelly sort of actually having a panic attack. And all the while, I don't know which side of Nelly lies on if she actually loves Manny or not. That could be something she's just saying in order to, get his money and get herself out of trouble. Or it could be a genuinely real emotion and she has genuine feelings for him. And again, it is ambiguous whether or not she actually loves him, but I'd say she does. And that's why she walks away. She knows that, this sort of pain follows her everywhere she goes, and she doesn't want to get Manny tied up in it. So because she loves him, she decides to leave. So basically, back to this scene, I think it represents a fusion of a small town girl with big dreams and a lot of trauma merging with this wild child, cutthroat personality will stop at nothing to achieve her dreams. Women, feel free to call me out in the comments, but I'd venture to say that Margot Robbie is not wearing makeup in this scene. Of course, she's probably wearing like movie makeup, so her skin looks good in the lighting or whatever, but the intention is that she's supposed to look like she's not wearing any makeup. This sort of raw face of the real Nelly. She's not covered in big movie makeup. This is supposed to represent the raw and real side of Nelly. And if you look closely at the dress, it's actually not the same one she wears at the beginning at the party. It just looks very similar to it. The one she wears at the beginning is more raggedy, more see-through, and the one she's wearing right now is more sleek. It looks like it's made from velvet. And this is why I don't think this scene represents the full transformation of, oh, old Nelly is dead, new Nelly is here, she's the wild child. It's a full, complete transformation. Instead of a transformation, I do think it's sort of a merging between the two, because this dress represents, it's still the old Nelly, but this time a little newer, a little different. She has more status, more money, and more of an ego. So then why does she look directly into the camera and break the fourth wall? For this answer, I'm not so confident in it, but I think maybe it's supposed to represent the symbiotic relationship between the actor and the audience. She's looking directly at us because she wants our approval. Basically, for the whole movie, Nelly is working towards the audience's approval. When she gets complimented on set for her acting, it doesn't really faze her. The director compliments her, the other actors compliment her, it doesn't mean much to her. But when that whole audience starts erupting with applause, that's when she smiles. That's when she gets her acceptance. She is able to have this lavish life because of the audience showing up and giving their money, so then she gets paid, and that supports her gambling and drug addiction. The audience is supporting her lifestyle and giving her this validation, and once the audience stops showing up, well, she'll end up like she does at the end of the movie. And we, as the audience, have a parasocial relationship with her to the point where if she were ever to die, we'd kill ourselves. And I don't know if this makes sense, but stay with me. In this shot right here, I think she looks more like Margot Robbie than she does Nellie Leroy. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, to sort of be a meta moment calling out the parasocial relationship we as audiences have with the actor Margot Robbie. Maybe I'm reaching on that one. So that is my official answer for this scene, this shot in the montage. The scene represents the point of no return, where the wild child officially is a part of Nellie, and it can either lead her to destruction or all of her dreams coming true. The small town girl from Jersey has been changed by the Hollywood system, and now it's up to her to decide how much of her genuine self she is willing to give up in order to obtain her dreams. But there is more to this story, because the more I looked into the scene, the more I realized, is it even supposed to be in the movie in the first place? Because I will admit, I decided to cheat a little. I looked up the screenplay to Babylon to see how the scene is written in the script, and maybe Damien Chazelle can give me some insights to what he was thinking when writing this, when shooting it, when putting it into the movie. So I looked into the script, and it's not there. The script I was able to find online was dated July 6th, 2021, and as of that version of the script, yeah, it's not in there. The whole montage is there and it describes things happening, but the scene of Nellie just sort of wandering around looking at the camera with no makeup, being wet, wearing a similar but different dress, not in the script. But you know what is in the script? A cut scene from the movie that was supposed to be there instead of what we got. The scene is Eleanor writes the review of Nellie, but then she says, I also got the chance to go to Nellie's house to see what it's like. And so then the scene takes place, Eleanor is visiting Nellie's house, and it's filled with expensive antiques all over the place from different countries, sort of a mesh of every single culture. And Nellie is there with her boyfriend named Cole, which we never see in the movie except for this cut scene. And then her dad is there making mac and cheese with like sauce on top of it. But then, there's a knock at the door. It's Nellie's other boyfriend, who then it's like, Nellie has two boyfriends, and the two boyfriends fight each other, and they throw macaroni at each other, and they're covered in sauce. It turns into a food fight, and the whole house gets covered in sauce, and Eleanor herself gets covered in sauce. And the scene ends with this one line that really sticks out to me. To Nellie, looking now like she expected this, orchestrated the whole thing, shooting out a sly, satisfied grin. My opinion, I actually don't like this scene, and I'm glad they cut it. Sure, it fits in with the vibe and tonally with the rest of the movie of these like chaotic things happening, but I think this scene treats Nellie almost too much like that full wild child. She's fully just a chaotic gremlin for the chaos, and she just wants to watch the world burn, which I don't think that's true. Every scene with Nellie, there's at least some humility there. Part of Nellie's character is that she always carries her trauma and insecurities with her, and she tries to mask it really hard. That's part of who she is. And in this scene, it just seems like she's gone full wild child and not the merge of the two of them. The part of the scene I do like is it actually shows us where all of Nellie's money goes and how she goes through money really fast, and it's foreshadowing later in the movie when she runs out of money, and now it's sort of more explainable because of that. I liked that part. So I have a hunch that Damien Chazelle just sort of decided to film this moment spontaneously while on set, even though that like realistically maybe doesn't make sense because a big huge budget scope movie like this has to be meticulously planned and budgeted and shot listed, and I find it sort of unrealistic of them being like, hey, let's go over to this new location that we've never shot at before, put Nelly in a new costume that we don't see before, and then film this thing. So I'm sure he had to have planned for this moment beforehand, but I don't know. And speaking of the location, again, I cannot find where this was filmed. I tried Google Mapsing all over the filming locations, trying to see if I can find it. I can't. So if you recognize this location, please let me know. My best hunch is that sometimes in movie studios, they'll use old houses and refurbish them into like office spaces, and I think that's what this looks like here. I mean, there's a fountain to the side, and this bush has like a plaque in front of it, so maybe it's somewhere on the Paramount lot, but I couldn't find it. I don't know. It certainly feels like a late addition to the movie by Damien Chazelle, because they probably didn't have enough money to get a new location of Nelly's house, fill it with all these expensive props, and then hire a new actor to be Nelly's boyfriend, and then hire another actor to be the other boyfriend, and then they throw sauce at each other. It just seems like a really expensive scene just for the one time in the montage. So I can see why they cut that scene out for money purposes, and then they replaced it with a lot easier to shoot scene that I think actually maybe encompasses the themes of the movie a little bit more. And maybe we'll never know what Damien Chazelle's intent was with this. To what I can find, there's no director's commentary. I own the thing on 4K Steelbook, and director's commentary is not there, so I don't know. I hope my own interpretation suffices. I usually only talk about horror movies on this channel, but if there's a movie I'd make an exception for, it's definitely Babylon. I love this movie, and hopefully you love it a little more now too. And if you like me going really in-depth about one specific niche part of a movie, maybe you like this one video I did about The Shining.